Hey you, it's Andrew again. Thanks again for sending us these essays, and well done really for getting this far. Your writing has improved considerably. So let's jump straight into your first new task 2 and see if we can get you a little bit more. Thanks again, by the way, for sending us your corrected essays. Thank you for paying attention. You are learning a lot. So number 6. Everyone has a strong opinion on education. So for a start, I would go with most people have a strong opinion on education because they know that it is significantly important for having a better life, or a better quality of life, or better opportunities, or more options. From my perspective, the current compulsory education system is obsolete and inhibits children's potential. I would put a full stop here and then have. There are other novel education systems which could completely transform the way that children learn, or how children learn, or transform children's educational experience over the next decade. This essay will explain the reasons behind my argument and take examples from 2 research papers about learning speed and computer-based learning. The word learning here twice is a bit much so close together. So examples from 2 research papers about maybe how computer-based learning influences the rate of learning. The current education system forces every child to learn the same topics at the same pace. So we don't need both a topic and a subject. These 2 are interrelated, so let's just say forces every child to study the same subject at the same pace. It's like that old Albert Einstein quote: if you measure a fish by his ability to climb a tree, he'll spend his life convinced that he is stupid. So the current education system forces every child to study the same subjects at the same pace. Try not to use words like obviously. We're here to convince people with the truth, not to bully them into believing us. So this is because there is normally only one teacher in a classroom who needs to give a lesson to sometimes more than 40 children at the same time. However, everyone is born having different interests, or different propensities, or different passions. And how fast each child can learn really depends on the individual, or children's learning speeds, or children's rate of learning varies considerably depending on the individual. Therefore, this one-size-fits-all approach makes some students bored, or they find it difficult to follow the lesson. So this one-size-fits-all approach bores some students and makes the lesson more difficult for many, or for others. A study from Harvard University, or a recent study from Harvard University, shows that approximately 40% of primary school students in the US felt that they were left behind in at least one of their classes last year. So I firmly believe that this is a harmful environment to foster curiosity. A harmful environment does not foster curiosity. I can see what you're trying to say. So you could say that, so these children were left behind. I firmly believe that this is a harmful environment which does not foster curiosity, or which is counter to the goal of fostering curiosity. In order to solve this pressing issue, startup companies are proposing new educational services by making use of computers and the internet. Recent technological developments and computers and internet, same thing. So in order to solve these pressing issues, innovative startup companies are proposing new educational services based on technological developments in computers and the internet. These new services enable children to learn what they want at their own pace, because a computer works as if it were a dedicated teacher. True. They do not get tired or frustrated, and they have unlimited patience. a different research or another study, because we say a different research project or some research. There's a quantity of research or a number of research projects. An additional research project conducted by Harvard, because you're saying also here as well, so you can just say an additional research project conducted by Harvard shows that students who leveraged these tools recorded 10% better score. Bit of only slightly inaccurate there. Students who made use of these tools, or students who invested time in these tools, recorded 10% better scores in a countrywide standard examination last year, or standardized examination. The study clearly illustrates that these newly developed tools can be a viable alternative in the education system, or can bring useful variety or fruitful variety to the education system. In conclusion, I firmly believe that educational institutions should transform how they teach as there are new tools available. Good. And they have already, no contractions in essays, and they have already proven that they can make students smarter. Good. So good. Your main idea is that the current education system, this one-size-fits-all, doesn't work and produces a homogeneous population. Homogeneous means all the same. So to homogenize something is to make it all the same. It's an excellent word to use when talking about culture or society that is becoming similar. So when we're talking about globalization as well, we can talk about the homogenization of culture, that it's all becoming the same. The mass mixing experiment of the world necessarily results in homogeneous culture. So it's just an interesting word for you to use there. But well structured. The one thing I would say is that you've got a few too many sort of intro sentences before your examples in this first paragraph. Introduce the idea, give your opinion, back it up with an example, and give us a therefore. Keep it nice and tight and structured. Other than that, it really is just the sentence structure and grammatical corrections that I've given you for that one. Let's move on to the next, your task one. So the three pie charts illustrate how three different areas of the UK, or in the UK actually, either's good, spent their money in 2014. Yeah. So these councils are called, well, exactly that. They're called councils, or local authorities, or local government, or regional authorities. The whole point is that we're talking about local spending. It can be clearly seen that leisure and education are the two greatest sectors of investment in all regions. Leisure was the biggest percentage, or leisure attracted the biggest percentage of funds of the expenditure in Derbyshire and Lancashire, which accounts for approximately 40% and 35% of. So we need to make sure that we state that these figures are for expenditure. So leisure attracted the highest proportion of funds in Derbyshire and Lancashire, It accounted for approximately 40% and 35% of their expenditure or their budgets respectively. While Yorkshire spent only about 20%. I would say while only 20% of Yorkshire's total spending was on leisure. Instead, Yorkshire heavily invested in education at around 35% of total expenditure. The education sector in Derbyshire and Lancashire received approximately 25% and 35% of their total outlay. Outlay, good word. When closely looking at the data, or while examining the data closely, it is clearly seen that Derbyshire did not, no contractions, did not prioritise social services. Less than 5% of total investment was recorded as spent on social services by Derbyshire, which was much less, because it's a quantity that can take any number, so it's less investment. If we were talking about the individual particles of investment, so coins, or we could say fewer coins, or it's anything with that has, or fewer pennies. But spending, you can have less spending. You can't have fewer spending. So less than Yorkshire and Lancashire. Less than 5% of its total investments were recorded as spent on social services by Derbyshire, which was much less than Yorkshire and Lancashire, who spent 4 and 5 times more on this area, respectively. It just needed to be a little bit smoother. Finally, it can be seen that the percentage of expenditure by Yorkshire and Derbyshire on community care is twice as much as that of Lancashire. Cool. So we've got some comparisons in there. We've backed ourselves up with data, and you've gotten most of it. No, that is good. I like the variety of vocabulary that you've used: outlay, expenditure, spending. It's just getting these in the correct forms. So we're talking about things that have been spent, or a council has spent, or has expended, or did expend. We're talking about something that happened in 2014. So we're referring to, often we'll be either using past simple or past perfect, because they did spend, they have spent in the past. So keeping all of those nice vocabulary words in the correct tenses. But they are great, very well structured. Well done for habitually sticking to the acronym. Like I said, just thin it out a bit. Stick to more precise, simpler language. But thank you very much, you. That was a pleasure to read. I look forward to your next ones. Send us your completed error list, as well as your corrected essays and your final 2 submissions. I'll have those commented on for you in the next 24 hours. I'll speak to you very, very soon. Bye-bye now.